4 shootings in 12 hours in Baltimore. Residents voicing their safety concerns as May gets off to a violent start in the city.
City Hall struggling to attract top talent for key jobs. Why those who want to apply say they're being turned away.
And many of you just watched the O's fall to the Braves. We'll see how the other birds in Baltimore fared on the second day of Ravens rookie minicamp.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening. I'm Vincent Hill.
And I'm Megan Gilland. The first weekend of May off to a violent start in Baltimore. 4
shootings on Saturday alone, including a deadly one along Peering Parkway in Northeast Baltimore. That happened just before 1:30 this afternoon.
3 other people were shot and are expected to survive, including at this scene on Falls Road. This is right near Western High School, where police say a man was chased by a suspect. Anyone with information on any of the shootings is asked to call police. Many in Baltimore still reeling from the news of a deadly shooting at a T-Mobile store in Canton last Sunday. 23-year-old Fabian Sanchez Gonzalez was shot and killed in an armed robbery.
And we're learning more about the suspects, 18-year-old Arthur McCaden and his 14-year-old brother, who allegedly also carried out an armed robbery in New Jersey just hours before.
Frustrated residents saying Baltimoreans already have enough on their plate without worrying about their safety at all times.
Tight and so hard out here. It's like they really have to take on extra jobs to do.
The city's not going to get better till you deal with it.
And that deadly robbery in Canton, another robbery in Federal Hill Friday, and an Easter Sunday shooting at the Inner Harbor has residents wondering exactly where they can be safe. The candle's still burning at the T-Mobile in Canton, where Fabian Sanchez Gonzalez was shot and killed last Sunday.
Just a really brazen crime. I mean, I'm not sure what to say about that.
A brazen crime at 4:30 in the afternoon that has Chad Bailey rethinking if he wants to continue living in Baltimore.
It makes you think twice. I mean, where you're having gun violence in the middle of the day at a place where people are out and just shopping and enjoying themselves.
Fox 45 posing the question.
Where are you safe? I guess in a secure building, I suppose.
In Federal Hill, an armed robbery just before 2 a.m. Friday at West Cross Street and Olive Street, just around the corner.
You know, it's Baltimore. He kind of comes with the territory, right? But you never think it's going to happen to you, I guess.
And Zickafoos's business burglarized, costing her thousands.
You're never safe.
Law enforcement analyst Melissa Pinkleton saying the crime crisis is no laughing matter.
Much like in the movies, this is a preview of what's going to come for Baltimore for this summer.
Saturday evening. Baltimore police posting their mobile command at the Inner Harbor with its eye in the sky after an Easter Sunday double shooting of 2 teens just feet away from police after a large disturbance of unruly juveniles.
You know, family and friends are like, oh, aren't you scared working in the city? And I'm like, no, I'm on Charles, like right by all the bars, and it's so, and then here we are.
It has me kind of reevaluating where I want to live when I'm done working here.
Well, sources tell Fox 45 News 18-year-old Arthur McCaden was under supervision of the Department of Juvenile Services, an agency facing scrutiny as more teenagers find themselves involved in violent crime. A report claims the department does not provide adequate programming or educational opportunities to Maryland's youth. Delegate Luke Clippinger now calling for a top-to-bottom review of the DJS.
I believe that the secretary will get into the guts of rebuilding this agency. That doesn't need legislation. That needs leadership.
News received a lengthy response from Delegate Marlon Ampry, who says former Governor Larry Hogan failed to properly fund and staff the state correction system. He says that's put communities at risk. Ampry says the issues with DJS are a result of Governor Hogan's mishandling of the system. You can read Delegate Ampry's entire statement on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
And that brings us to our question of the day. Do you think lawmakers did enough to address public safety this session? So far, 97% of people who voted say no. You can cast your vote right now at foxbaltimore.com/vote. Baltimore City's government struggling to bring in top candidates for high-profile jobs. But what's behind that issue? Some argue one of the hiring requirements for those positions should be scrapped. Fox 45's Taylor Stewart has more.
As the city of Baltimore deals with recruitment issues, some on council say it's the city's own stipulation that's partly to blame for the difficulty in bringing in top talent. The head of the Department of Public Works, vacant. Baltimore City's fire chief, vacant. And the city's head of procurement, also vacant. And in the same week, the mayor's chief of staff and director of communications, both out. The recent shakeup comes as Baltimore's recruitment issues take center stage.
We have had several candidates that have identified the residency requirement as a barrier.
That's the city's human resources director, Quentin Herbert, sharing more on the hiring hang-up caused by a city-imposed hiring requirement, mandating all Baltimore city executives live within city lines. It's a stipulation Towson University rhetoric professor Richard Vatz says should be scrapped.
To make residents a top priority just doesn't make any sense. The fact that you live in a place doesn't mean you have commitment. There may be some resentment, and people don't want to move all of their families.
Exactly the challenge raised by Director Herbert.
We have one agency where we've been recruiting for a bureau head for quite some time, and a person has been acting in an interim capacity. And that person would be, quite frankly, the ideal candidate for the position.
But he says that ideal candidate lives outside of the district, rendering them ineligible for more than an interim position.
When you make money, you're spending it in the city.
But District 2 Councilwoman Danielle McRae says city executives should live, invest in, and pay taxes in the city they serve. But Professor Richard Vatz says there is not an incentive package that negates the issues of now.
There are problems of violence, there are problems of the quality of life, there are problems of crime, and also the problem of schools.
He says Baltimore is only narrowing its own talent pool by prioritizing the city locality requirement as the list of vacancies grows.
I think that this is foolhardy, and there are ways to get good people without requiring residency.
Taylor Stewart, Fox 45 News.
Baltimore police say a man is dead after a motorcycle crash on South Monroe Street. According to police, the motorcycle was hit by a car. That driver did stay on the scene. The motorcycle driver was taken to shock trauma, where he later died. Crews are investigating what may have caused that accident.
A Maryland state trooper has been arrested on 3 charges in Anne Arundel County. Trooper First Class Ryan Bandy faces false imprisonment, second-degree assault, and sex offense charges. Bandy has been with state police for 9 years. He was released after appearing in district court, and he is currently suspended without pay.
We're learning more about the crash involving a police car last night along Harford Road in Northeast Baltimore. According to an investigation, another car failed to stop at a red light, hitting that police car and sending those 2 officers and that driver to the hospital. Both officers have been discharged. The driver who caused the accident is still getting treatment.
We have some breaking news right now. We are learning 9 people are dead after a mass shooting at a mall near Dallas, Texas. Several others are injured. One hospital says it received 8 patients between 5 and 61 years old. One Texas congressman says police told him the shooter is dead. He is now calling on the public to pray for those impacted. Texas Governor Greg Abbott saying state officials are helping with the investigation. President Biden has been briefed. School budget battles continuing across Maryland, including a tense meeting this week. Executive Bob Casserly proposing nearly $305 million for Harford County Public Schools. That's $19 million less than the district received last year. Parents and teachers saying it's just not enough.
I urge you to send Mr. Casserly and his team back to the drawing board to produce a budget that actually meets the needs of this county.
So we really had to take a very conservative and fiscally responsible approach.
County Executive Bob Casserly says taxes will go up $500 per household if these education demands are met. There's also frustration over the state's blueprint for education, or the Kerwin plan, which mandates more funding for schools in each system. Carroll County School Board says they won't be able to fund the new requirements.
If our commissioners raise taxes, they will not be able to raise them at the rate that will allow us to implement blueprint.
Executive Stuart Pittman says his new budget proposal would raise taxes. In a letter to his constituents, Pittman says the tax aspect of his proposal, quote, kind of sucks, but also says some education aspects to the budget are morally the right thing to do. Pittman mentions filling 200 teacher vacancies and increasing pay, as well as bringing on more police and firefighters. The current plan carries an expensive price tag for Baltimore City Public Schools, nearly $400 million. Now, that's about 11% of Baltimore's budget. Mayor Brandon Scott calling it a gut punch after finding out how much it would cost.
I don't agree with the mayor of Baltimore very often, but in this case, I certainly do. You know, I've got counties on the Eastern Shore that have said for the entire time since Kerwin has been passed that they cannot afford it. So there's going to be one or two things that happen. Either the formulas change for funding or we see some type of Kerwin light.
Republicans have long criticized the 10-year education spending plan as too expensive and without guaranteed improved outcomes for kids. Democrats overrode former Governor Larry Hogan's veto of that bill, but now they may be open to tweaking that plan.
What a beautiful night here. We're taking you live to the Inner Harbor here with a perfect start to the weekend. We had temperatures around 70 degrees all day, Vincent.
Right, but I was stuck inside for the most part.
Oh, I was at soccer games and lacrosse games for my niece and my daughter who are here in studio tonight.
They are. I can see
live
them
audience.
over there. I know, right? We got a live audience. Well, meteorologist, speaking of live audience, Jasmine Lomax is here. Jasmine, hopefully tomorrow and especially Monday, because it's my weekend, we'll be looking good.
No. Unfortunately, the best day of the weekend was today. We had great weather, temperatures in the 70s, nice and dry weather. Will stay dry overnight as our temperatures drop to the upper 40s and the low 50s. Not too bad, and actually a pretty mild start to your Sunday. We will start off with dry weather. However, we're getting ready for our next weather maker, and that's going to have impacts on your afternoon, leading to rain and possibly a few storms. The unsettled pattern will continue into the beginning of the work week, meaning more showers on Monday and again on Tuesday. However, we do start to dry out after that, and by the end of the week, it looks much better. Coming up, I'll have a look at the timing of the rain and when we dry out in my Weather Authority forecast. Back to you.
All right, Jasmine, thank you. Spring weather means it's time for some green in your life. Coming up, sights and sounds from one of Baltimore's best traditions.
And long may he reign. King Charles has his coronation today in London, while some are paying attention to who wasn't in attendance.
More controversy at Churchill Downs on the day of the Kentucky Derby. 2 more horses were euthanized after sustaining leg injuries in races today, bringing the total number to 7 of horses that were put down in the past 2 weeks. A trainer at Churchill Downs was suspended. Today's main race went on as scheduled. Rocco DeSangro has the winner ahead on Sports Unlimited. Baltimore County Police handing out steering wheel locks to Hyundai and Kia owners in Towson today. This comes amid an alarming trend nationwide in which thieves are using USB cables to break into those cars and drive away. Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown is calling on Hyundai and Kia to recall some models until they get the proper software updates. Police at the event today say it's important to be safe regardless of what kind of car you drive.
As with any vehicles, we certainly encourage you to never leave a spare key in your vehicle or perhaps a family member's vehicle that might be parked nearby. And certainly the most basic thing is please always lock your vehicles. That will certainly decrease the possibilities of your vehicle being stolen.
If you're still in need of a lock in Baltimore County, police say you should reach out to your local district for pickup.
We could all use a little more color in our lives, and the Mount Vernon Flower Market is looking to be a source of vibrance. Photojournalist Morgan Pravado shares the sights and the sounds from today's festivities.
Flower Mart is the oldest free public festival in the city of Baltimore.
Take your time. Walk around. Meander.
Love
This is going to be gorgeous.
It's so pretty, yeah.
We have 60 vendors, 15 food vendors, 20 plant and flower vendors.
You ready? Oh, this is beautiful.
It's a nice exposure for the business. So the Flower Mart's been a nice accent. It's a nice tradition.
It was first begun in 1911 by the Women's Civic League, and their goal was to encourage the greening of Baltimore City by planting flowers and plants.
Well, you'll know. Your plants will talk to you.
I know. And then what?
there's a lot to add to the environment with greenery and plant and nature. You're going to be a great plant dad.
It just improves the entire feeling of the city.
And this is a great opportunity to draw other people from other parts of the city and neighboring counties.
We kind of bring the farm to the people in the city. So when you buy local, you're supporting us. We can't stay in business without the support of the community. So some people tell me they don't have time to make the extra stop. They like to go into the big box store to get everything. But there's nothing like buying local. If it's not fresh, it's rotten.